All right, so get ready because today we're taking a deep dive into Plato's Philebus.
Oh, this one is a good one.
Yeah, it is. We're going to be tackling this huge question.
Mm.
It's been debated for
For
centuries.
sure, for sure.
What is the ultimate good? Like, what is the good life?
The good life, right?
Is it just pure pleasure? Or is there
Shit, is that it?
something more? Something more to life?
Well, and what's so fascinating about this dialogue is that, Plato doesn't just pit pleasure against, wisdom and then say, okay, here's the winner. It's this one.
Right.
It's not a versus, battle. He actually brings up this third idea, this third option.
Yeah.
This mixed life. And it just makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that really what we all kind of strive for?
Yeah.
That little bit of both?
It's that balance, right?
Yeah.
Instead of a philosophical knockout, we get this really nuanced exploration.
Yeah, it's really cool how he does that.
Yeah, so we've got Philebus in this dialogue who is all about maximizing pleasure.
Like, that's the goal. Just maximize it.
Yeah.
That's the good, the ultimate good.
But then Socrates comes in and throws a little bit of a wrench in the plan.
Yeah, he's like, hold on a second.
He's like, maybe wisdom, knowledge, truth.
Maybe it's a little more than that. Yeah.
I mean, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
So to really kind of break this down, to dissect it,
Yeah.
they agree on this very specific method of analysis.
Right, because they need some rules.
Yes.
Some guidelines.
Yeah.
Think about it like, I don't know, like a musician
Okay.
breaking down a symphony or something.
Okay.
They're going to take these really complex concepts, pleasure, wisdom, and break them down into these core components.
Okay, yeah.
Like, what are they made of?
So we're dealing with some big concepts here.
Yeah.
Really big ideas.
Definitely.
And Socrates brings up this concept of the one and the many,
Yes.
which we've actually talked about before.
Right.
In some other deep dives.
Yeah, we've done some deep dives into this.
And it's this idea of how can one thing have so many different variations?
Right.
Like, it's still that one thing.
Exactly. Like, think about all the different types of music there are.
Yeah.
I mean, they all fall into this big category of music.
Right.
But they sound so different.
So different.
So Socrates is applying that same kind of logic to pleasure.
Okay.
Like, are all pleasures fundamentally the same?
Okay.
Or are there some really key differences?
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So to get to the bottom of this, he starts using these categories
Okay.
to classify everything.
Okay, categorize everying. I like.
You've got three.
Okay.
The infinite, the finite, and the mixed.
The infinite, the finite, the mixed. Okay.
And he uses some really vivid examples to illustrate these kind of abstract categories.
Oh, I love when he uses examples. It makes it so much easier to understand.
Yes, totally.
Well, what's what?
Okay, so think about temperature.
Okay,
It
temperature.
can always get hotter. It can always get colder.
Yeah, you can always add a degree.
There's no limit.
Yeah,
It's infinite.
infinite. Okay.
But then you have something like the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter.
Oh, pi.
Pi.
Okay.
That's a fixed value.
Right.
That's finite.
Okay, so temperature is infinite, pi is finite.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
And then, of course, we have the mixed category, which combines both.
Okay.
So like health.
Health. Okay.
It depends on this balance of elements in the body.
Right.
A mixture of finite and infinite factor.
Okay, that makes sense.
But then Socrates adds this fourth category.
Okay, a fourth one. All right.
And this is key.
Okay, tell me.
The cause.
What's the cause?
The thing that brings things into being.
Oh, okay. So he's not just categorizing things. He's looking for, like, the underlying force
Yes.
that shapes reality.
Yes.
Okay, I like where this is going.
So now, how does Socrates tackle this idea of pure pleasure being the ultimate good?
Yeah. How does he do it?
Well, he paints this picture of a life devoted solely to pleasure.
Okay.
No wisdom involved.
Okay.
And it's not exactly a paradise.
It's not like, oh, this is the good life. Everyone wants this.
No.
What does he say?
He compares it to the life of an oyster.
An oyster.
An oyster.
Okay.
Just reacting to stimuli.
Okay.
Driven purely by instinct and sensation.
Not a lot of mental stimulation going on there.
Not a lot going on up here.
No, not really.
And that's where he introduces these three types of life that he proposes.
Okay. All right.
A life of pure pleasure,
Okay.
a life of pure wisdom,
All right.
and of course the mixed life.
The mixed life.
And Socrates, very cleverly, gets Protarchus to admit that everyone would choose the mixed life.
Oh, so he's like setting a trap.
Yeah. He's like, so which one would you choose?
Yeah.
And Protarchus is like, well, I guess the mixed life.
Yeah, obviously.
So it proves that neither extreme on its own is really that appealing.
Right. So we kind of crave that balance.
Yeah, we want both. So then Socrates dives into this Really interesting idea
Okay.
that pleasure and pain are actually intertwined.
Intertwined.
Yeah.
How
Well,
so?
think about hunger. Think about thirst.
Oh, yeah.
It's that uncomfortable feeling.
Right, you don't like being hungry?
Yeah, it drives us to seek satisfaction.
Right.
So it's like the pleasure comes from fulfilling that need,
Right.
that lack.
No, interesting.
So he's highlighting that dynamic nature of pleasure.
It's not just like this one static thing. Okay.
He goes even further
Okay.
to suggest that there's this neutral state
At a neutral state.
where we experience neither pleasure nor pain.
Oh, wow.
Imagine like this perfect equilibrium.
Okay.
No cravings,
Sure.
no discomfort,
Just pure balance.
just pure balance.
That's interesting.
I know. It's making me think about how we tend to fixate on the extremes.
Yeah, the highs and the lows.
Right, the highs and the lows, but what about that middle ground?
That middle ground, yeah.
Now, Socrates also brings up this concept of false pleasures.
False pleasures. Okay.
Those things that we might enjoy, but they're not truly beneficial.
Oh, okay. Give me an example.
Okay, so like, think about laughing at a comedy.
Okay. I like comedies.
That's mocking something that you hold dear.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you mean.
So it's like, are you truly enjoying that?
Right. Or are you just kind of fooling yourself?
Yeah, and that's a question that we can apply to so many areas of our
There's
lives.
so many things. Yeah, it's like, are we really enjoying this?
Yeah.
Or is there something else going on?
Yeah, it's a good reminder to check in with ourselves.
Definitely.
Examine those motivations.
Why are we doing the things we're doing?
Why are we doing them?
Okay.
All right, so now we get to Socrates' big claim about the power of the mind
Okay. The mind.
in the universe.
In the universe. Okay.
This is where that fourth category, the cause, becomes central.
All right. It's all coming together.
He points out that our bodies are made up of the elements.
Right. Earth, air, fire, water, all that stuff.
But what governs our bodies?
Yeah. What makes it us?
What gives us life?
Yeah.
Consciousness.
Yeah.
Our souls.
Our souls.
And he argues that just as our bodies have that governing force,
Right.
the universe itself
Okay.
must also have a soul.
The universe has a soul.
This cosmic mind
Mm.
that is intelligent and wise.
Wow. So he's not just talking about like human intellect.
Now,
He's connecting our minds to this like
universal force.
this universal force that shapes reality.
Yes,
That's big.
that's huge.
Okay.
And this idea ties into another one of his key points,
Okay.
the distinction between true and false pleasures.
Okay. We were talking about that earlier.
Remember how he talked about pure whiteness?
Unadulterated by any other color. Yeah.
He suggests that true pleasures
Okay.
are similarly pure and unmixed.
So there's like levels of pleasure.
Yes,
Okay,
there's
go.
like a hierarchy.
Right.
And these true pleasures, he says, are tied to beauty,
Beauty. Oh.
but not just any kind of beauty.
Okay.
He's talking about perfect geometric forms,
Okay.
like those timeless abstract shapes,
Right. Right.
or the
right.
beauty of pure colors
Like a pure red, a pure blue.
Yeah. and harmonious sounds.
Okay.
Things that have this, like a timeless,
Yeah.
enduring quality to them.
Okay.
And he also includes the pleasure of knowledge
Knowledge. Yeah.
in this category,
Okay.
but with a caveat.
Okay.
It has to be knowledge that is unmarred by the pain of seeking it.
Oh, so it's not the satisfaction of finally figuring out
No.
that
what?
hard problem.
It's like that pure joy of understanding something effortlessly.
Effortlessly. Oh, wow.
Like when you suddenly grasp a concept you've been
Yeah.
struggling with,
You're like, oh, I get it.
it just clicks.
And you're just filled with this joy.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's not about the struggle.
Right.
It's about the pure joy of knowing.
The pure joy of knowing. I like that.
Yeah. And this idea of purity
Right.
connects back to that earlier point
Okay. Okay.
that a small amount of pure pleasure is more valuable
And
than a large amount of impure pleasure.
it's about quality over quantity.
Exactly.
Okay. I like that.
It's about the quality of the experience,
Yeah.
not just the intensity.
All right. So we've explored this complex idea of pleasure
Right.
and what makes certain pleasures true.
Yeah.
In Socrates' view.
Yeah.
But where does wisdom fit into all this?
That's the next step.
How does it stack up against pleasure in this quest for the good life?
Yeah. How does it compare?
I guess we'll have to wait for part 2 to find out.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into Plato's Philebus.
I had to be back.
Last time, we were exploring those really big abstract categories
Right. The finite, the infinite.
and how Socrates applies them to pleasure and wisdom.
Yeah. It's like he's trying to categorize all of reality.
And we were left with this image of a life without pleasure,
Oh, yeah.
being like a meal without seasoning.
Like bland, boring,
not very appealing.
Definitely not.
So that's where this idea of the mixed life really comes into focus.
Right. It's not about denying ourselves pleasure.
Right.
It's about finding the right kind of pleasure.
Right, that complements a life of wisdom and meaning.
Exactly. It's got to be the good stuff.
Right, because Socrates isn't arguing for a life of, like, pure asceticism.
No, he's not saying we should all become monks.
No, he acknowledges that pleasure has a role to play.
Right. It's part of the good life.
But it's about being selective.
Choosing wisely.
Choosing wisely.
Yeah.
And this is where he draws this fascinating parallel with the concept of purity.
Purity.
Remember how he talked about pure whiteness?
Unadulterated, yeah.
Unadulterated by any other colors?
Yeah.
He suggests that tree pleasures
Okay.
are similarly
Oh,
pure
interesting.
and unmixed.
Okay, so we're back to those true pleasures.
Yes.
What kinds of things fall into that category?
Yeah, because last time we ended on this idea
Right.
that true pleasure is tied to beauty.
Beauty. Okay.
But not just any beauty.
Not just anything that looks pretty.
He's talking about the beauty of perfect geometric forms.
Oh, okay.
Those timeless, abstract shapes.
Right, like perfect circles and squares.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or the beauty of pure colors.
Like a vibrant blue.
And harmonious sounds.
Like a perfectly tuned instrument.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's this inherent order
Yeah.
and balance to these things.
Like they just make sense.
And he finds that deeply satisfying.
Right. There's a certain pleasure in that kind of order.
It's making me think about the difference between,
Okay.
like, listening to a perfectly executed classical music piece
Okay.
versus, like, a chaotic, noisy song.
Yeah.
There's a different kind of pleasure involved there.
Totally different vibe.
Right.
Yeah.
And Socrates would probably argue
I think so.
that the pleasure derived from that classical piece
Right.
is a truer form of pleasure.
Yeah, because it reflects that deeper order.
Yeah.
Harmony.
Because it reflects something deeper.
Yeah. And he also includes the pleasure of knowledge in this category. But only when it's not preceded by the pain of seeking it.
So it's not the satisfaction of, like, finally solving that difficult problem.
No, it's not the relief.
It's the pure joy of understanding.
Effortlessly.
Effortlessly.
Like when you suddenly grasp a concept you've been struggling with.
Yes, that aha moment.
It just clicks into place.
And it's just pure joy.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
It is.
So it's not about the struggle.
Right.
It's about the experience itself. And that connects back to what we were talking about earlier.
Right, that quality over quantity idea.
A small amount of pure pleasure is more valuable than a large amount of impure pleasure.
It's not about how much you get.
Right.
It's about the quality of what you're getting.
It's about savoring those special moments.
All right, so we've delved into this complex idea of pleasure.
We've gone deep.
And what makes certain pleasures true in Socrates' view.
Right, the good stuff.
But where does wisdom fit into all of this?
Yeah, how does wisdom stack up?
How does he compare it to pleasure in terms of, like,
Right.
its role in the good life?
Yeah, what's wisdom all about?
Well, Socrates goes on to dissect the nature of wisdom and knowledge.
Okay, he's breaking it down.
Just as thoroughly as he did with pleasure.
He's got his scalpel out.
Yeah, and he even talks about these two parts of knowledge.
Two parts. Okay.
Productive and the educational.
Okay, so is he saying that knowledge can be both practical,
Yes.
the kind that helps us, like, build things and create things,
Yes.
and theoretical,
Yeah.
the kind that expands our understanding of the world?
That's exactly what he's saying.
He's covering all the bases.
Yeah, he seems to be suggesting that true wisdom
Okay.
encompasses both.
Both, okay.
The ability to apply knowledge in a practical way.
To do things in the world.
And the ability to contemplate and understand it on a deeper level.
To think about big ideas.
To think about those big ideas.
Okay, and here's where things get interesting.
What's next?
He never explicitly declares a winner.
Oh, so no knockout punch.
No clear victor.
Hmm.
He keeps coming back to this idea of a mixed life,
Okay.
emphasizing that a truly good life involves a balance of both pleasure and wisdom.
Okay, so he's not saying it's either.
No, it's both hand.
It's both hands.
He even uses this analogy of a well-blended drink.
Okay, I like this.
You need the right proportions of each ingredient
Right.
for it to be truly enjoyable.
So it's about finding the right mix.
The perfect recipe for a fulfilling life.
The perfect recipe.
Yeah.
But does he give us any guidance on how to actually achieve this balance?
Well, he doesn't offer a specific formula,
Okay.
but he stresses the importance of choosing pleasures wisely.
Right. Remember his whole discussion about true and false pleasures?
Yeah, that seems to be a key part of this mixed life.
So it's about pursuing those pure and enduring pleasures.
The good stuff.
And avoiding those that are fleeting.
Or based on false beliefs.
Or based on false beliefs, yeah.
So it's about being discerning,
Yes.
thinking critically about what truly brings us lasting happiness.
It's not just about chasing those fleeting moments of gratification.
No, it's about the long game.
The long game.
Exactly, and he connects this back to the power of the mind.
Right, the universal mind.
Remember how he argued that the mind governs the universe?
Yeah.
That it's the ultimate cause of order and beauty?
So are you saying that by cultivating our own minds,
I think so.
by seeking wisdom and knowledge,
Yeah.
we're somehow aligning ourselves with that universal force?
It's like we're tapping into something bigger than ourselves.
It's a pretty wild thought.
It is. It really is.
It makes me wonder about the implications.
Yeah.
Like, if we're all connected to this source of wisdom,
Right.
does that mean we have all this untapped potential?
Now that's a question worth pondering.
That is a good question.
And it makes me think about another big question.
Okay, what's that?
Socrates talks about those true pleasures.
Right.
The ones derived from pure beauty.
Like perfect geometric forms.
Yeah. Harmonious sounds, pure colors.
Right, right.
But isn't beauty subjective?
That's so true.
What one person finds beautiful might be totally different from
Right.
what another person finds beautiful.
Like, think about art.
Exactly.
What's considered a masterpiece to some
Right.
could be totally confusing to others.
Or even repulsive.
Yeah, repulsive.
So is Socrates saying there's some kind of objective standard of beauty out there?
Like a universal aesthetic.
That applies to everyone.
That's a big question.
It is, and it's a debate that's been going on for centuries.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer.
Yeah.
Maybe there are certain aesthetic principles that
Okay.
are universally pleasing.
Like symmetry or balance?
Yeah, but we also have to acknowledge the role of individual taste,
Right.
personal preference.
So how do we reconcile these seemingly opposing views?
Well, maybe it's not about finding one definitive answer.
Okay.
Maybe it's about recognizing that beauty can operate on multiple levels.
Okay.
There might be certain qualities that have a more universal appeal, but we also have to acknowledge the subjective element.
So we're not all just doomed to disagree
No, I don't think so.
about what's beautiful.
I think there's common ground to be found.
Yeah.
Maybe it's about understanding those different layers of appreciation.
Right.
There's that initial gut level reaction,
Yeah, I like this.
but then there's also the possibility of deeper analysis.
That can enrich our experience.
Exactly.
And that deeper level of understanding might be what Socrates is getting at
I think you're right.
with his concept of true pleasures.
It's not just about the surface.
Right.
It's about appreciating beauty for its underlying order,
And harmony.
for its connection to something greater than ourselves.
It's like there's a difference between simply enjoying something
Right.
and truly appreciating it.
And that appreciation comes from understanding,
From knowledge.
which brings us back to the mixed life.
Full circle.
Full circle. Yeah.
It's about integrating those intellectual pursuits
The quest for knowledge.
with the pleasures of everyday life.
Finding beauty and meaning in everything we do.
You know, this whole dialogue has really made me think differently
Oh, yeah. How so?
about my own pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
I'm so used to chasing external rewards,
Yeah.
achievements. But Socrates makes such a strong case
Yeah.
for focusing on those true pleasures
The ones that come from within.
that come from knowledge, virtue, and understanding.
It's like he's saying, hey, there's a whole other level of happiness out there if
Yeah.
you're willing to look for it.
It's not about denying ourselves pleasure.
No, it's about being mindful
Right.
of the kind of pleasure we're seeking.
Recognizing that true happiness isn't just about feeling good in the moment.
Right.
It's about living a life that is both meaningful and enjoyable.
A life in harmony with our true nature.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Plato's Philebus,
Almost there.
what's the most important message we want our listeners to take away?
I think it's this. Don't settle for a life of fleeting, superficial pleasures.
Don't settle.
Challenge yourself to seek out those experiences
Yeah.
that nourish your mind and soul.
That connect you to something bigger.
Exactly.
Cultivate your intellect.
Appreciate beauty in all its forms.
Strive to live a life.
That reflects your deepest values.
The path to true happiness might be complex,
It might be challenging.
but it's a journey worth taking.
It definitely is.
And who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe along the way you'll discover some of those true pleasures
Yeah.
that Socrates was so passionate about.
Really good stuff.
Until next time,
Until next time.
keep diving deep. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Plato's Philebus.
It's been a journey.
It has been. It's been a good one, though.
Oh, yeah.
So we've been exploring this whole idea of the truly good life, the fulfilling life.
Right.
And it's this mixed life
The mixed life.
that combines both pleasure and wisdom in just the right proportions.
Gotta have both.
Gotta have both.
It's all about that balance.
But as with any good philosophical exploration,
Oh.
we're left with some lingering questions.
Oh, there's always more questions.
Always more questions.
Yeah, and one that really sticks out to me is Socrates makes this really compelling case for the power of the mind, this universal mind that governs everything.
Right.
But how exactly does that cosmic mind connect to our own individual minds?
Right. It's like he kind of throws it out there
Yeah, he kind of just leaves us hanging.
without a clear explanation.
So are we supposed to believe that by using our minds,
Yeah.
by seeking knowledge, we're somehow tapping into this universal wisdom?
Are we all just like little pieces
Yeah, like little fragments.
of this big cosmic mind?
It's a trippy thought.
It is. It's a very trippy thought.
It's definitely open to interpretation.
Yeah.
But that's one way to look at it. It's like
Yeah.
we're all tuned into the same frequency.
Okay.
And by developing our intellect,
Yeah.
by striving for understanding,
Yeah.
we're strengthening that connection.
Like we're amplifying that signal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It makes me wonder about the implications.
Okay.
Like, if we're all connected to this source of wisdom,
Right.
does that mean we have, like, all this untapped potential?
Oh, that's a good question.
Could we access more of that universal knowledge if we just, like, knew how?
Now, that's a question worth pondering.
That's a big one.
It is. It really is. And it actually makes me think about another question.
Okay, what's that?
Well, Socrates talks about those true pleasures, right?
Right.
The ones derived from pure beauty.
Yeah.
Like perfect geometric forms, harmonious sounds, pure colors.
Yeah, yeah.
But isn't beauty kind of subjective?
That's so true.
What one person finds beautiful
Yeah.
might be totally different from what another person finds beautiful.
Think about art.
Exactly.
What's considered a masterpiece to some might be utterly confusing to others.
Or even repulsive.
Or even, like, yeah, just...
So is Socrates saying that there's some kind of objective standard of beauty out there
like some universal aesthetic that applies to everyone.
that everyone agrees on?
Yeah, it's a big question.
It is, and it's a debate that's been raging on for centuries.
Centuries.
And honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer.
Yeah.
Maybe there are certain aesthetic principles that are universally pleasing,
Okay.
like symmetry, balance.
Right.
But we also have to acknowledge the role of individual taste.
Personal preference.
Exactly.
So how do we reconcile these seemingly opposing views?
Well, maybe it's not about finding a single definitive answer.
Okay.
Maybe it's about recognizing that beauty can operate on multiple levels.
Okay.
There might be certain qualities that have a more universal appeal.
Right.
But we also have to acknowledge the subjective element.
So we're not all just doomed to disagree
No, I don't think so.
about what's beautiful.
I think there's common ground to be found.
Okay.
Maybe it's about understanding those different layers of appreciation.
Okay.
There's that initial gut level reaction of, I like this.
Yeah.
But then there's also the possibility of deeper analysis
Why?
and understanding.
that can enrich our experience.
Exactly.
And that deeper level of understanding, I think, is what Socrates might be getting at
I think you're right.
with his concept of true pleasures.
Yeah.
It's not just about enjoying something for its surface appeal.
It's about appreciating its underlying order.
It's harmony.
Its connection to something greater than ourselves.
Like you're saying, there's a difference between simply enjoying something
Right.
and truly appreciating it.
And that appreciation comes from understanding,
From knowledge.
which brings us right back to that idea of the mixed life.
Full circle.
Full circle.
We're integrating those intellectual pursuits
The quest for knowledge.
with the pleasures of everyday life.
Finding beauty and meaning in everything we do.
This whole dialogue has really made me think differently about my own pursuit of happiness.
Really.
Yeah, I'm so used to chasing external rewards, achievements.
All right, that's kind of how we're conditioned.
But Socrates makes such a strong case for focusing on those true pleasures
The ones that come from within.
that come from knowledge, virtue, and a deeper understanding of the world.
It's like he's saying, hey, there's a whole other level of happiness out there.
If you're willing to look for it.
If you're willing to put in the work.
It's not about denying ourselves pleasure.
No, it's about being mindful
Right, mindful.
about the kind of pleasure we're seeking.
Recognizing that true happiness
Yeah,
isn't just about feeling good in the moment.
right.
It's about living a life that's both meaningful and enjoyable.
A life in harmony with our true nature.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Plato's Philebus,
Time to come up for air.
what's the most important message we want our listeners to take away?
I think it's this. Don't settle for a life of fleeting, superficial pleasures.
Don't just go for the easy stuff.
Challenge yourself to seek out those experiences that nourish your mind and soul,
Yeah,
the ones that connect you to something bigger than yourself.
that's good, yeah.
Cultivate your intellect
Appreciate beauty,
in all its forms.
strive to live a life.
That reflects your deepest values.
The path to true happiness might be complex,
It might be challenging.
but it's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely.
And who knows?
I don't know.
Maybe along the way, you'll discover some of those true pleasures
Yeah.
that Socrates was so passionate about.
Until next time, keep searching.
Keep diving deep.